What's up, nerds, and welcome to NoisyPixel.net's daily news show where I highlight some of the headlines and news stories from across the gaming industry. For some housekeeping, before we get into the show, we do have a 5-year video that just recaps around less than 4 minutes of your time to go over our 5-year history, kind of our humble beginnings. It was kind of cringe because when I started the website, I was really nervous about my voice at the time. I was in a punk band and I paralyzed my vocal cord after a long tour, and it made me, it really hurt my confidence, if that if that's a thing that could even happen. It did. So basically my voice was down to a whisper, and at first I tried one surgery. After years of it affecting my life, I think I had it for 3 or 4 years. I think it was degrading. I just didn't have health insurance. From North America, what can I say? So finally, I did end up getting health insurance. I got a little bit of help from a Botox style surgery where they tried to muscle up my vocal cord, and I know I'm getting way too into this, but it needs to be said because it's in that video. You're gonna be like, why does he sound like that? So let me explain. And then, a year or two later, I was maybe 2021, I think my surgery was. I was able to go in and they put a prosthetic vocal cord in my throat, and that's why you can hear me now. But before all of that, it was really awkward to go to events. Especially during COVID time, people just thought I was sick, and I had to lie a lot. I would be like, "Oh, the hard night last night," stuff like that. But I digress. Let's get into the show. Now, there's not much news today, but I wanted to highlight a story that's been going around about a interview with a Ubisoft director. His name is Philippe Tremblay. He's the Ubisoft's director of subscriptions, and he did a interview with GameBiz. It's an interesting read, and one that I think deserves a little more deconstruction than just a digital future isn't going to work. Because basically it boils down to the one statement where he says that gamers need to get used to not owning their games. And I think in the bigger conversation, he makes some relatively okay points. So let's jump into what he says. One of the things that we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game, so it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. He does continue and says, I still have 2 boxes of DVDs. I definitely understand the gamer's perspective with that. But as people embrace that model, they will see that these games will exist. The service will continue and you'll be able to access them when you feel like. That's reassuring. And from my point of view, that statement is pretty correct, and I never took that into consideration really when thinking about physical media and how it honestly relates to DVDs and VHSs and all old media that you see. Floppy disks and zip drives and jump drives, and just all these crazy things that people used for moving files or holding onto data. It does end up becoming obsolete at some point. So, and that's a realization that I never took into consideration, because as a gamer, my headspace goes to, I'm only thinking about video games. I'm only saying I'm a gamer, so this world is all I care about. What if I was a DVD collector? How would I react to Best Buy removing the DVDs and Blu-rays from their shelves? That would hurt me a lot more than it did. The announcement was like, Blu-rays and DVDs have sucked for years. When they first came out, you had stuff to do. You had extras, you had behind the scenes, all this cool extra stuff you can do, even little stupid games within DVDs they had. And now it's like, here's the movie. There you go. There's no extra bit to it, so there's no reason to buy it. Video games are different in that regard. It's like there is stuff to do, and as you can see from behind me, I do love owning physical media. But then we need to introduce the elephant in the room, which is paying for these video games. And I think that's where my brain kind of steps back and tries to really dissect what the core issue is. You have games that are costing over $300 million to make, with huge lists of people in the credits that have worked on this game, and all those people need to get paid. But how do they get paid when you release a game and that's it? That's your game. It's $60-$70, no updates, no DLC. I'm gonna try and release this single player game and see what happens. The problem with that is that the sales will likely never match up with what you spent in development, and that includes marketing and all that stuff, and paying your PR teams to get media and influencers behind it. So when I look at it through the lens of an executive looking across the industry, and it's like seeing the bill come in and thinking, geez, how am I going to pay for this? The live service model does look pretty enticing. But the downside of this is you actually really have to trust the publisher or developer that's doing this. And I don't think Ubisoft and many others have garnered that level of trust. Square Enix is discontinuing more games than they're launching, it seems like. And other models, you see games getting shut down, being unsupported after 6 months. It's tough to be a gamer and say, okay, I agree, I'm going to stand by you, and then invest yourself in a game for 8 to 10 months only to realize that it didn't get enough support, so now it's going to be removed. That's the problem. And that's where I think that gamers need to ease up a little bit on the fact that when they see a live service model, not to cringe, but to actually look at the gameplay, to actually see how this game is going to evolve. Look at Midnight Suns. Everyone's jumping on that game when it was like bashed from the beginning. Like nobody played it. There was like a couple of bad takes on it, and now everyone who decided to play it is like, oh crap, this game is actually pretty good. But it's never going to be enough because of that general launch. They had layoffs, and now they're here. It's like, you really have to learn, I think, to make your own decisions. You can't base your decisions off of what a writer thinks or off of what a influencer thinks. You really have to look at a game, deconstruct it in your head, and say, is this something that I'm going to support? And I think that's saying more than get comfortable not owning your game. Because I don't think that that's the right stance. I don't think that we can say you're not going to own your game. In that regard, you don't own anything that you pay for on Netflix because it's going to go away. You know, you don't own the Spotify songs that you listen to or stream. It's an interesting area to be in, and a fine line that I think the gaming industry really needs to come to terms with. And that said, I look at games like Rainbow Six Siege and just the success. Tekken 7 still has a good community of players behind it. You know, there are games out there that garner that, but how sustainable is that for the future? And I think it's going to really come down to what the indie and kind of niche community does moving forward. With that introduced, you don't need the $300 million budget. You can put out a interesting, unique game for a quarter of that. You know, it's there are avenues to take, but I think gamers need to lower down the barrier of entry there, because having so many expectations for a game made by two people on a budget of $20,000 is like, we need to be more lenient. We need to critique where critique is necessary, but also say that's a good idea, continue that, but fix this. You know, I think that is going to be a better a better avenue for the future of gaming besides saying, you can't own your games? I don't know. I'm in the middle. I would really like to know your thoughts, and I think that's why I opened up this discussion. Is I really want to know where gamers stand on this, and please don't just say like physical media all the way, because really do open your eyes to all these layoffs and all these people that right after a game launches, they're gone. You know, there's options now for these developers to simply either use AI, contract their development teams to cheaper people who will do it for a fraction of what they would have to pay their in-house developers to do, and minimize the systems and features that you have. Like maybe a feature is going to be on hold unless 100,000 people buy this game. You know, those kind of constraints. I feel like if we bring our barriers down, maybe the video game industry will too. That's putting a lot of hope into these executives, but as someone who mainly just plays like niche anime games, I don't know. I doubt it's gonna happen. I heard Foam Stars uses AI too, and that was a bummer, but I can see it. It kind of looks like an AI game if you just the bubbly faces and expressions. Anyway, I digress. But please let me know what you think about this whole situation and owning your games and subscriptions models in the comments below, and we'll definitely talk about it. On to story 2, we have Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown Deluxe Edition coming to Nintendo Switch on July 11th, 2024. The Switch release will include all original content and faithfully recreate the fast-paced action of the original. It also includes the game's 2 to 8 player multiplayer combat along with other features. Additional DLC is not included in the Deluxe Edition, but there is planned DLC to purchase after the launch. So we'll see what happens. I doubt the VR version mode would be in this one. But last story, we have Shantae and the Pirate's Curse getting a physical reprint, but on the 3DS. WayForward and Limited Run Games announced that they will release a physical reprint of the WayForward developed platforming adventure Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. The publisher confirmed the game was ordered through the manufacturer on the last day before Nintendo America Online 3DS game cartridge production was discontinued. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is the third title in the multi-million selling Shantae series, which first launched in 2002 on Game Boy Color. A previously unreleased Shantae game, Shantae's Advanced Risky Revolution, will come later in 2024. So thank you so much, guys. That's it. That's the news. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Noisy Pixel.